Hey everyone! On today's video, I'm going to answer a lot of the questions that I had before I came to Cambodia about money. So I'm going to talk about things such as what's the deal with real? What money do you need to bring? Do you need US dollars? Can you get cash out? Am I going to get scammed at an ATM? Does anyone take card? How much does it cost to live in Cambodia? And all things currency. So I hope that you find it useful and I hope that it helps you planning your trip to Cambodia. So the first question about what money do you bring? So I had read so much online about what to bring in preparation for my trip to Cambodia. I was running around Malaysia trying to go to money conversion places to get US dollars because I'm Australian, I don't naturally have any. So I would recommend bringing US dollars. Small denominations are the most helpful. $5 and $10 notes if you can get them. $20 notes are fine as well, but it's a little bit harder if you're not spending a lot of money, as some places might be reluctant to break $20 notes. So I would say $5 and $10. I had a few $1 notes as well, but they weren't as helpful because, as I'll talk more about, there isn't that much that's less than $1 or around $1, and you're probably going to use real for the lower amounts anyway. So I'd say 5s and 10s in US dollars is helpful, and to bring them is ideal. So I would get them out if you can, wherever you're coming from. And something you will notice here is there's actually no coins in use in Cambodia. So when you're using obviously US dollars, you won't want to bring anything smaller than a $1 note because things like quarters I've never seen used. So bring notes only, and you'll notice that real is all in notes as well. So you have 100s, 500s, 1000s, 2000s, 5000, 10,000, 20,000 real. But yeah, no coins here, notes only really. So in terms of getting cash out, I did bring all of my notes from Malaysia, as I just spoke about. So I've only spent notes that I got out overseas. However, there is ATMs here. There's a lot of conversation online about there being scam ATMs. I have read that it's not ideal to get money out at the airport. I haven't done this, so I can't talk about it from personal experience. However, there is a lot of banks with ATMs in them around Phnom Penh and Siem Reap that you can get cash out that look pretty legit. I've met a few people on tours that have done this and it's been fine. However, if you get cash out in US dollars, the ATMs are likely to give you $100 notes, which I think are pretty difficult to break. You may be able to find a bank that will break them, but I would recommend, if you're going to use an ATM, to get money out in real. Where I've met people that have gotten money out in real, you're actually able to use it and spend it. So I'd probably avoid getting money out in US dollars here, just for the risk of getting $100 notes, not being able to break it. Potentially avoiding ATMs that look a little bit dodgy, or like checking for those scam devices. But there's a lot more legitimate looking banks and ATMs here than I expected from the amount that I saw online. And I've definitely met people that have gotten money out and it's been fine. So I wouldn't stress too much about that, but it is easier just to have all your cash and not worry. So they're pretty strict here with US dollars, particularly with $20 notes, that they're not damaged. So make sure when you're getting cash out, if you're going to try to spend it here, that there's no rips, tears, writing on them, stamps, stains, anything like that. I also read that it wasn't okay to have ones that were folded, but I've been spending US dollars that are folded and it's been fine, but just making sure they're not too worn, too damaged or ripped or anything like that, because you can't use them here. So I do have quite a few notes that I'm going to be taking with me. Lucky I'm going to the US soon so I can spend them, but I would be cautious of the quality of the notes. Okay, so I've talked a bit about US dollars, but real, what's the go? So it's usually 4,000 real to $1 US. So you're going to get comfortable with the 4,000 times tables. Some places it's like 4,100 or 4,200 to $1. But if you just generally assume it's about 4,000, you'll be fine. So sometimes you'll buy something and it may be $1.50. Given that there's no coins, if you want to pay with exact change in this situation, you can either give them $1 US and 2,000 real, being $1.50, or you could give them 6,000 real, which is $1 and half a dollar. Case by case, given the conversion rate, they might ask you for an extra 100. I found this pretty inconsistent, but say usually when something's $1.50, if I'll give them 6,000 real, it's been okay. So you can pay in real or a combination in both. When you get change, for example, with our $1.50 example, if you gave them $2 US, they'll give you 2,000 real change. So anything lower than $1, they're going to give you real. So you will collect some real regardless. So you're likely to end up with some US dollars and some real in your money, and you'll be spending them interchangeably. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you'll get a feel for it, and you'll just realize anything less than $1 is going to be in real. but you can generally pay in a combination if you need. So I've noticed a difference in Phnom Penh and Siem Reap as the two cities I've been to in terms of how the cost of things is displayed. In Siem Reap, I've seen a lot more in US dollars, and in Phnom Penh, some places seem to advertise their pricing in US, some places in Riel. But even places that advertise things in US dollars, I've never had anybody say no to paying in Riel. So something may say $5 US, and if you give them 20,000 Riel, it's generally fine. So you just do those calculations in your head. But say you do get money out in the ATM and you've just got a lot of Riel, I've never had issues in spending it. So yeah, Riel's like a pretty good way to go. Another slight difference I've noticed is when you get change back when you pay. I've noticed it a little bit different in Phnom Penh versus Siem Reap. Generally, if you're getting change back that is less than 10 US dollars, you're likely in Phnom Penh to get it all in Riel. So you'll get a lot of Riel back, like $9.50 in Riel. However, in Siem Reap, I've actually been getting some change in US dollars, which makes things a lot easier because you can collect quite a lot of Riel quite quickly. Which leads me to my next point, which is try to spend your Riel. Which leads me to my next point, which is try to spend your Riel, especially the 100 Riel notes. They're not worth a lot and you're gonna need a lot of them to pay for anything. So if you're not on top of spending it, you're gonna end up with a massive, massive wad of Riel. So try to spend the Riel, especially small denominations, whenever you can, so it doesn't get out of hand. Another reason you don't want it to get out of hand, obviously apart from the massive wad of cash that won't fit in your wallet, is that the Riel isn't possible to exchange outside of Cambodia. So if you leave with this money, it's kind of useless unless you're coming back to Cambodia or you can sell it to somebody who's coming to Cambodia. I've seen a lot of forums of people talking about having a lot of Riel left over and not knowing what to do with it. So it is good just to keep in mind that you don't really want to leave Cambodia with much money in Riel. So if you could spend your Riel and keep any extra US dollars, you're going to have more chance of exchanging it when you leave Cambodia. So just keep an eye on how much Riel you've got towards the end of your trip and try to spend it when you can. So you may have a Visa or MasterCard that you want to pay with. In some countries, I use my Visa or MasterCard for everything. Not everywhere in Cambodia accepts it. If anything, it's pretty low rates of places that actually take card. So this is why I guess I'm talking so much about cash as well. I've noticed there is some places that take card. It's always worth checking because it can be good to keep your cash for times that you need it if you're able to use card, depending on your fees, etc. But I personally like to use card when I can. So places that accept cards, supermarkets are generally pretty good. Some cafes and restaurants, particularly the upscale ones, but it's worth just asking when you go somewhere if people accept Visa or MasterCard, and even the lower English speaking places generally understand what you're talking about. 7-Elevens, in my experience, don't accept card, but they're really comfortable with lots of Riel. So I wouldn't stress too much using cash in places like that, but yeah, not a lot of places will accept card, basically. I've noticed more places in Siem Reap accept card than Phnom Penh, but that's just my personal experience, so you may have a different experience. I want to caveat all of this advice with the fact that I have been in Cambodia for a month, but I am by no means an expert in Cambodian currency, in any of the things that I'm talking about, so I'm just sharing my personal experience and observations. So of course, do your own research, have a look at these things to make sure that anything that you're doing is going to suit you and your personal circumstances. But I still hope this advice is helpful as somebody who's been here for a month, so sort of had a bit of a feel for the currency situation here. Okay, so in terms of budget, so I'll just share with you personally what I've been spending, which may give you an indication of how much money you may need to get out. Of course, everyone's different, but so from my experience, there's a big variance in the amount of money you can spend on pretty much anything in Cambodia. So if I'm buying a lunch, for example, if you go to a cheap place either in Phnom Penh or Siem Reap, you might be able to get a lunch for say $2 or $3. That's absolutely like a cheaper kind of local place. Whereas a more of a middle range place, you might find lunch for between $4 and $5, and a more premium sort of place, say a restaurant for dinner, might be between $6 and $8. So that's the sort of range you're looking at. So depending on the kind of traveler you are, you can really do it cheap, or you can splurge a little bit more here. Things like a can of Coke Zero at a convenience store, which I admittedly drink a lot of, will be likely between 50 cents and 75 cents. Again, you'll have to use Riel for that, or you'll get Riel in change from a $1. And then things like coffees, again, really big variance. So you might get a nice Americano for $1.20 in one place, whereas it might be up to $3.50 in a different place. So it's just about having a look around, having a look at menus. Google Maps is pretty good in terms of having menus on places. So have a look around, but that might give you an idea of what it's like to eat out here. In terms of accommodation, we pre-booked accommodation through Airbnb. So it's just what we chose to do in the middle of Siem Reap. It was about $35 US per night for 2 of us, so we were comfortable with that. But again, there is a lot cheaper places, and there's also some really fancy places here as well. So have a look online, but you can do it very cheap, or you can splurge a bit. It's both totally possible. In terms of transport, it's a pretty walkable city in my experience, so I haven't really used much transport. The tuk-tuks are good. We got a tuk-tuk up to the Apopo Rat area the other day, and that was about 10 minutes away and cost about $1.50 US. But I use the Grab app and my card is already loaded on there, so I don't need to pay cash on that. I just put that on my card, which is fine, but you can pay cash to your drivers as well. And yeah, it's probably like $1 to $2 for a Grab ride, so pretty cheap to get around. A couple of other things I've spent some money on to give you a feel for it is I got my nails done the other day, and that was $10 US at quite a nice place, and I'm very happy with the result. And I got a massage as well, which was $6 US, but again, huge variations. There was places from $3 for an hour up to say $30, $50 for an hour. But there's a lot of massage places around the old market, and they're all around $5 to $10 for an hour, which is cheap. So I've been able to sort of indulge in some of those things while I'm here at a very reasonable price, which is nice. Clothes are really cheap as well at the markets, and shoes and things like that. You'll be able to find shirts for like $1, $1.50. The textiles industry here is really cheap, so if you need any clothing or like imitation brand handbags, shoes, you'll get those things for like $5 or $10 as well. So a good place to shop for that kind of thing if you're into it or looking to buy something. Alrighty, and that's my experiences with money and the things that I kind of wish I knew before I came to Cambodia. So I hope that it's helped you out. Please let me know in the comments, have I missed anything? Do you disagree? Is there anything else you would add to this for travelers? It's great to have more resources online. I think Cambodia is a really under-traveled place, and there's so much different information online. So I wanted to share my experiences with you. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you've liked the video, if you could like it below, that would be amazing. And if you subscribe to my channel, that will help me out so much. That means the world to me. And yeah, I'll see you on my next video. Bye.